Welcome to another reading and correcting of Shattered Salvation with me, Indar. Tiger writes, Hi, Tiger Super. Today we are doing chapter 17. The landing lot facing Hillary's car, filled with hovers that range from inexpensive model to that would everything Alex had amassed in Ford. For security reasons, the complex didn't allow any outside vehicles. Gate. Found a spot at the far end of the lot to they walked to the gate. The guard checked their ID, calling in. Never seen them before. Alex had arranged it. Had arranged for the system. To think they'd been on the night shift until he looked up as the shuttle flew around the complex and where he could warehouse gate. Once allowed in, to take the closest of remaining ground hover and nation. Nothing else to do, Alex studied the area. The map had made the complex feel like a small city. As they passed restaurants, clinic, gyms, various stores, all they needed to add was housing. Would be. Alex wondered if, with all the amenities, let's do something to urge their employees in the office to ensure as little time was lost as possible. Mission was a 7-story tall building made of nondescript metal, glass, and rounded. The only distinctive mark on it was the number 327 large over the double entrance door. Tristan eased the hover into one of those free spots and Alex looked around. Road. Everyone was in their office. Followed Tristan, wiped his ID. The door didn't slide out of their way. Wait, okay. Follow Tristan to the wipe his ID. Go there. Tristan eased the hover and Alex looked around at the deserted road. Everyone was in their office. He followed Tristan to the door, swiped his ID. The door didn't slide out of their way. The reader even flashed red and gave the standard buzzer. Alex, the ID is valid, and it's a work day. You shouldn't need to scan your ID. I can see a security desk, a guard. Tristan pulled the tools out of his bag. Keep an eye out. Alex leaned back against the wall. I can imagine that with the security at the gate, they don't feel the need. Too many other guards in the building. This one? With one of their storage. Should have one at all time. Luminex had 8 guards in the lobby, and they raised that to 12 the morning and evening. Employees came in and I remember it didn't do them any good. Never does. I've come to realize anyone determined will get in regardless of the security. Some places simply need someone extremely determined rather than passingly. Reader made a pleasant beep. It opened. Placed the cover back on. Alex moved to step through, but Tristan grabbed his arm. Hearing the cover, sniffing. Okay. He walked through and Alex followed. With the door closed behind him, he smelled it. Smell. Not a cleaner, but something he'd expected to smell in a hospital. Not a data processing. He headed for the counter. Internal lock. I have 2 down guards. Went around the counter and bent down to check. It looked like they'd slid out of their chair when they're alive, unconscious. He looked at the screen, still displaying the security they'd been looking at before the gas had affected them. Every screen he looked at showed him a similar scene. Or slumped in chairs. The entire building was gassed. I'm not seeing anyone conscious. There's going to be a team moving around. Find them. Alex made contact with the thing it to look for. Fortunately, since talking to it from the security console one of the guard had been logged into, it obeyed immediately, bringing up 3 cameras. Look, oop. I have a team of 4 called up the location of the camera on this floor at the back. Watch to screen flicked camera feed. Camera. Even Luminex had that part. He looked around, exited. They looked around, exited, moved to the next office. They're doing a door-to-door search. They don't know where the stacks are. And was asked, how? It took me less than 10 minutes to get through the security to locate it. File and out. They don't have it. That gives us the advantage. You want me to lock down the left? I gave myself control of the system when I first got in. You didn't mention that. Alex looked at me, pointed to the computer. Alf, me. I figured what I do was obvious enough not to need to mention it. It's about telling me all the information. Don't assume I'll know everything you. Tristan, you know, you know things I'm planning to do I haven't told you. I'll make sure to tell you everything from now on. Am I them down? No. It will tip them someone else is here or that someone woke up. Best they'll put them on their guard. At worst, they have more of what they use as the building and we'll release it. Alex told the system to deactivate those alarms and audio sensor on. Follow Tristan. Floor, Tristan cracked the door open and looked at Tristan glanced at him. All clear. They've made it through 6 more offices. Right there on the ground floor when we leave. Tristan hurried down the corridor until he reached the place. The lock is in. When he didn't find it, tools out and spent slightly longer than usual getting it. When the door opened, the cold air made their breath miss. I should have brought a jacket. He headed in. The mainframe stacks. The mainframe stacks were black columns, 5 feet in. Lights blinking down the uneven, letting the expert know the essential about the status of the data. Looked at it. If looked at it the right way, they could almost be building. Blinking lights, windows were walking. Light. So I handed him 2 of the 4 disruptors and them on top at each. One of them was enough to turn all 81 of the stacks into a lump of plastic and polycarbonate wafers. And if there was one thing he wanted, it was the certainty nothing would survive the destruction. Set them he set them with a 3-hour delay, and sure, nowhere near it off. Make a change to yours, add a trigger setting. Any changes in temperature, give it a 10-minute delay before that becomes. Alex had to search through the option menu. That one. Intelligence. Lock. Person was waiting by the door when Alex placed the first one on top of the second went faster. Exited. Spent time closing it. Blinked. They headed for this. That's why. I thought it was just one of the better locks. I don't want where we were there. I like to take care in entering, and it's possible they could keep the disruptors triggering. Alex checked. He motioned for they're in the stairwell. Watched them climb around to this. He waited a few seconds after they exited. Paused. They silently went down. Alarm for them to trigger. Any delay will work. Ever. I don't want the law to get involved. It's just going to complicate. Have you left the trail leading back to you? Doing that now. Going to send them to a handful of motels and communication stations over the cities, eventually leading where you decided the meeting will happen. Yes, meeting. You and him in and out of the way places, lots of explosions, dead bodies all around. Call that a meeting? You keep referring to a meeting with masters. That's how that one turned out. It sort of fits. sort of set the pattern. Tristan shook his head, and Alex couldn't tell if he was being Seth. How do you think they got in? Asked as off the building. There's bound to be holes in their security grid. Item. Check. I have you to get me in, so why waste anything? And got them to the warehouse. This wasn't the first time Tristan had relied on Alex to get him through security. Prior to that, but this was the first time Tristan had acknowledged it. That felt better, but the fact hadn't also done his own check worried. It was normally so. The warehouse came into view and kept on coming until it was all Alex could see. One giant wall at least 400 feet. There were no as they rode along it. Then stopped the hover 2 buildings past it. Walked back to it. Slipping behind the building between a building and they walked well past the point where Alex lost sight of the building. And as far as he could tell, there was nothing different about the section. Tristan ran his hand along the wall and hooked a claw between it, barely visible. I'm not going to ask how you knew about that, Alex said as Tristan took the cover off. There was nothing anywhere about any kind of access point. Used on, not within. Within. Remember when you said you didn't know any criminals who or going through a physical inspection would give a payout? Yes. Person did something in the section of the wall out of the way. I do. Alex was too tired. Just looked into it. Was a few deep, then it warehouse. Christian placed the cover back and went in, and Alex followed. Cavernous didn't begin to describe the space they were. It was the sound of it, because the only light were ones from flyers and gliders them back and forth, carrying items forth. The lights coming from behind them vanished as they closed. Darkness. The darkness was total. A soft glowing sign announced emergency. Is that a joke? Alex asked, do they think the carriers will have a need to rush out of here? Those date back to when what uprising? Humans worked here and they needed wrong. They just left them when they returned to how using old machine. Cheaper than stealing them all. And as you said, a carrier is going to rush out of here in a panic. How are we going to find what we're after? Count on this being totally dark. Tristan pressed something in his hand, visors. A visor by the shape. He put them on, and instantly the inside was bright as if it was as bright as if the lights were off. Alex whispered. I didn't know this level of clarity could be achieved. Now he could see how big the space was as it vanished. The ceiling was 40, maybe 50. Archon doesn't advertise this model exclusively for the military and only their elite force. So, of course, you not only know about it, but you know where to get some. Bought or acquired. Bought. Time didn't allow for anything else. And I point out a slight flaw in the plan, if it's actually a flaw. Remember when you worked out the time frame for this job and you came up with it in here, in and out in 3 hours? You said there was only 9 locations the fabricator could be in. 9, yes, 9 possible on 12 floor like this. I did say it wasn't realistic to expect to be done in 3. When I tried to elaborate, you told me you knew what you were doing, with getting us in here. I thought you had a trick or a use. Do you? To Alex, it sounded like he was grumbling under his breath. closest one. He finally. Alec took out his data pad and thought better than turning it on, wearing the visor, raised them to his head. The darkness feeling even more absolute. The closest stop on this floor is in that direction. Quite a ways. He adjusted the brightness setting until he barely saw it. Visor on, it was still almost. When he looked up, Tristan was 100 steps away. Alex put the datapad away and ran to catch up to him. Tristan had no. The only reason he was this was that Tristan had known what he was doing. The only reason he was doing this, only reason he, the only reason he was doing this was that reason in this was that I don't. This was one of the games he played on Alex. Tristan had known what he was doing, always knew. This was one of the games he played on Alex, tricks to test him. They weren't as common as they had been. Alex, so confused. Trouble remembering his own name. In fact, it had been close to a year since the last one. He'd just have to be on his guard. First, as he jumped out of the way of a ground-locked hover that was barreling at them, carrying crates on its flat body. Of course, it didn't know they were here, since they didn't broadcast anything like an ID it would recognize. It stopped at a rack of crates, added those it carried past them, vanishing. Direction going. Grinning, Alex switched on his implant, walking all the way. He listened to the rare code floating around, carriers talking to. Took out his data pad and connected to the closest one, overriding its current orders. Next to him. It didn't even, that was how dumb. He sat on it, held on to the guardrail, and go. Got up to it. Actually stopping ahead of him. Eyebrow. Unless you insist on walking, this is going to be faster. The visor was so sharp, he saw the annoyance. Tristan stepped on and sat in the hover as the hovers sped forward. The carrier wasn't made to carry people. Held onto the rail, about. Gave him a location ID. Alex the hover. There, Tristan looked through the crates and he took out a cylindrical container and put that in his bag. Reached the first dead zone, gave the location ID next to it. It stopped and, unsurprisingly enough, the location was empty. Of dust to show it had been used. The next stop was 2 floors up. Cut the hover to take them to the emergency. Would have to climb up. Was willing to risk boarding one of the flying carriers. Able to move on that floor. He commandeered another ground hover and had him make 3 stops for various components. The next dead zone. While they rode, mixed the canisters con, smaller one, and ended up with a lumpy paper. Filled the smaller can. The excess went back in the larger one. Left taped to the hover's rail when he. That isn't going to blow up, is it? As the hover manages to current. Dead zone location had large crates opened with bars so the animals it had contained breathe. That was. They were all dead. Had been for. He didn't see any feeding systems, so their stay should have been short. The ship receiving them would have put them in cryo immediately. Jack told them that, like any cages with more than one animal, there had been violence, and winter ate the. They couldn't imagine the noise that would have made, even if there had been only a handful of humans. One would have heard. Tristan looked at the scene with a grim expression. The floor above, Tristan got more electronic symbol what Alex could recognize as a detonator after the number he'd seen Tristan build over the. They went up one more floor, another dead spot, empty. He was about to get back on the hover when a bright line shone in the distance. He turned to tell Tristan, but Alex heard it, the sound of conversation. Then Alex heard it. Conversation. Faint. Tristan indicated the hover. Tristan indicated the hover before heading voice's direction. Alex released. Alex hid between crates, taking off the visor as the light became brightest. How far? Anne asked. A little further on the left side. Jefferson, house security. Still unaware. My programs are intercepting their signal, which is their office. It. I'm just keeping an eye on things to make sure the antibodies don't get to it. Around the crate, a team of 6 were heading in his direction, shining high-powered lights above for them and up and wondered. He walked by him and silently followed them. A step to the click-clack of their hard soles. Not a group that expected to encounter any. Stopped and their light at the dead zone. That's 3. The man in charge said with an annoyed sigh. Gotta calm it. Bronson, tell me you found it. Nothing resembling a fabricator at any of the spots you told us to check. Sound. Oswego, anything? Still want to go. Be there in 5. Jefferson, are you certain there's only these 9 places it can be? Or it can be? I'm going off of the information the boss acquired. If that wasn't accurate. You can't blame me. Inside. I'm not looking to assign blame. I'm asking for your opinion. You're the coercionist. You're the one who knows this stuff. Yes, these 9 places are the only one. Tristan caught his attention. Woman further back and pointed at his feet. Alex nodded. He took the knife from his boot, all polycarbonate carbon model. He could flip through scanners. He couldn't wait for someone to come up with something more. He moved. He had a hand over her mouth at the same time as he stabbed her in the severing her. He held her up. Had heard. When no one raised their voice, he hit her over his shoulder, careless of the blood dripping down his. Somalian went through her rifle to her vest, and to handhelds. Set them over until the holster handed those to Alex. He handed them to his belt. She had various chips in her pocket, data, along with an older model data pad and unit. She had no ID vision working for, but he knew they worked for Baran. Who else was looking for the fabricator? Mark, the leader's said, this stuff's empty too. And looked happy at. Pocketed the chips, rifle, and rifle, thoughtful. Looked up, Alex indicated the murder. Finger across, raised eyebrow. It would be simple enough. The leader spoke in soft stone. The other man. He couldn't make out the word. Alex raised an eyebrow, raised his eyebrow higher. Then what was the plan? All right, we're doing another sweep, considering how the boss is paying us. I'm not going back before I'm certain that what he wants is here. Jefferson, do your magic and find out what happened to it. If it's not here, I want spread. I want us to spread 1 per row and keep an eye out for. Where's Anita? Alex didn't argue. He made it 4 rows down before the shout came. Anita's dead. Someone cut her spine. Fan out, shoot on sight. We're supposed to be the only ones in here. Whoever they are, they're their competition. Probably whoever fried the stack. Oswago, Bronson, be on your guard. We have company. Shoot on sight. Take one alive if possible, but do not put yourself at risk. I'm not losing anyone else. Alex took control of the nearest hover and they climbed. When they were in complete darkness again, he put the visors back on. I haven't found it. Do you think they missed it? Their pro leader is ex-military. Of them were law. If they say it isn't here, it isn't. Alarian screwed up and it got shipped. We're alive, so no. The other possibility that someone got to it first. Nodded. Alex thought over what she'd gotten in. Word confirmed it had been weak. The company had become lax, relying on the automation. As good as he and Tristan were, others could have gotten in. And ignoring those who knew about the virus, there was one group of people might an industrial fabricator and decide they could make good money off of it, especially if they realize it had been built for biochemicals. They're going to they're doing a second sweep. Ask the guy who told you about the can he have told anyone else? I'll ask him, but I don't expect he did. One person was willing to do the needed work to find a way in, possibly work out the blind spot. Others were. Finding out which gang has it isn't going to be easy. The number of them who deal in drugs has to be. I know people ask. Alex Rizzo, I've been here before. You're forgetting one detail. We're looking for a gang who's been able to designer drugs at right prices. Those, there can't be any. And this concludes chapter 17 of Shattered Salvation. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to read the rest of the story or the other ones in this are available at all. If you want, that's on my page. Listen to me live. It's every 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you